Hi, and welcome to the fifth episode of Comadreando. Hola Comadres. I am your host, Marcy, and we have a very special guest here today, Felicia. I will let her introduce herself. Who are you?
Hello, comadres. I am Felicia. I am a mother of a 12-year-old boy. I'm a daughter. I'm a paralegal. I am 34 years old. And I think that's everything.
She's also a mami chula, like your host. and that's
Yes, I did
and
forget
that's how we
that.
know each other. So today's topic is very important, as are all of them. But we're going to be talking about birth stories. The reason why the topic came up, a lot of people ask me what it was like when I was pregnant with my son. And when Aiden gets his evaluations, they actually ask me about whether or not there were any complications during the pregnancy or anything like that. I feel like that's something that should be talked about. And you can also touch on prenatal care and things like that. Uh, so tell me about your birth story with your son, Charles, comadre.
Okay. Um, so first of all, I was in labor for 3 days. So we'll start with that. Like literally 72 hours. Um, so I went in for I was 37 weeks. And, by that time you're going in like weekly for checkups. And so I went for like a routine weekly checkup and, they checked my blood pressure and it was like really high. I think it was like 200 over 100, which is obviously really high. But I was also like on the phone with my son's father and like we were getting into it. So like the nurse was like, "Oh, you're probably just, tutahita, like go outside, calm down and come back." But when I went back in, like my blood pressure was still really high. So then she took me into the exam room and the OB that was there, he was like, "Yeah, your blood pressure is way too high, and I'm just gonna need you to go up to labor and delivery. And I don't know that you're gonna give birth today or this weekend, but I just need you to go up there just to make sure that everything's fine with the baby." So, so I did, and they had actually admitted me. It was a
Philly, can I
Friday.
interrupt? Did you
Yeah.
have high blood pressure throughout the pregnancy, or was that just a development towards the end?
No, my blood pressure was perfectly like. First of all, I've never had high blood pressure like my entire life. I was 20 years old when I was pregnant with him. And no, I didn't have high blood pressure. Like literally, that was the first visit that my blood pressure was that high. So it turned out I had preeclampsia,
Okay.
which one of the symptoms is high blood
Okay.
pressure.
Sorry, you could continue.
No, that's fine. So yeah, so that was like it was like a Friday evening, like 6:30. I was like I said, I was 20 years old. I had never had a child before, so of course I call my mom freaking out, like I don't know what to do. Like I think I'm gonna have this baby, and she's like, "What?" Like obviously, she's how Latino parents are, like they're very overbearing in general. So she's like, "Oh," she had to leave work and come meet me at the hospital. But I did not give birth to Charles. That was on February 20th. I did not give birth to him until February 22nd, which was that
Oh my
Sunday.
gosh.
So yeah, I don't know if you want me to go into like complete details. But they were obviously monitoring my blood pressure. I was on magnesium, which is
Help
supposed to
lower it.
help lower it. But it's also like a really strong medication, so they had to like put a catheter because it like makes you dizzy. So yeah, so I
Oh my
had
god.
that. That was really fun. Not. Um, and yeah, like I couldn't even eat like that entire 3 days. Like I was like chewing
Oh
on
my
ice
god. Did
chips.
they end up inducing you?
Uh, so they they gave me some medication to induce the labor. I don't know exactly what it was, but I do know that like my plug came out
Mm-hmm.
Friday night. Because like I felt it, like I was like, "Oh, I think I peed on
Mm-hmm.
myself," and the nurse is like, "No, your plug just
Mm-hmm.
came out." And they were like monitoring me like all Saturday, and I'm just like what are we doing? Like I'm hungry. Like what are we doing with this child? So then I want to say like Saturday evening or Sunday morning they started giving me Pitocin, but I think it was more
Mm-hmm.
Sunday morning because usually they do that when they want to accelerate the
Mm-hmm.
process because clearly he wasn't coming out on his own. And my blood pressure still wasn't like it wasn't stable. Like it wasn't normal. It was stable. It was like I would say like it probably went down to like 150, but like that was the lowest it was going. So yeah, so they gave me Pitocin, and I don't know if any of the comadres have ever given birth with Pitocin, but like Pitocin contractions are contractions on
Yeah, we'll
steroids.
get into mine afterwards, but yes.
So yeah, that wasn't fun at all. But anyways, so yeah, I was in labor for 3 days and I finally gave birth to him on Sunday, February 22nd, 2019 at 6:45 p.m. And like
2019,
I watched so many 20, did I say
girl, I
2019?
was like, Charles is not
2000, 2009, guys. 2009, sorry. He's 12, yeah. 2009. Um, but yeah, like I watch a lot of Lifetime movies, and you know how like they always like cry when they give
mm-hmm.
birth because of the what's that what's the hormone that you release?
Oxytocin.
Oxytocin, yeah. So I was just like, why do women cry when they give birth? But literally, like, what after I pushed him out, like I was like bawling, crying.
You were able to have him natural, even with the induction. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, no, I had him naturally. Well, they were pushing for me to have him naturally, because like they had called my mother out of the room at one point. I guess whatever. I mean, I was of age, so I don't even know why they were talking to her behind my back. But my mother told me this like years later that like when the doctor pulled her out, like he told her that the reason why they were pushing for me to have him naturally was because if they took me in for a C-section, one or both of us could have died. Like it was that serious. So they were like, pushing for it, and thank God, we're both here.
Amen. Yes.
Perfectly fine. He's 12 years old, and yeah, I gave birth to him naturally.
That's awesome. So after Charles was born, when they did that like baby checkup, I guess when they're like minutes after they come out, were there any complications, anything that came up?
Well, he wasn't breathing right away, so I think that also was why like I just started crying because it was just like he didn't cry right away, and I was just like, what is happening? So like yeah, obviously like he was 4 pounds and he was really tiny. He was 4 pounds 15 ounces. Like he was so tiny. Yeah, and he wasn't breathing right away. So like all these, well, when I was like pushing him, they were already like, I want to say 3 doctors and I don't know how many nurses like in the labor and delivery room. So once he wasn't breathing, like they started working on him right away. And I want to say like within a minute or so, like then we finally heard him cry, and it was like, okay, like everything's fine. And yeah, no, like everything else was fine with him. He was just like premature because of his weight. He was so small. But like I told him, I'm like, you guys starved me for 3 days. Like, what did you think was gonna happen?
You're like, of course he's gonna lose weight. So I feel like we have kind of similar birth stories. So when I was pregnant with Aiden, it was overall, it was a really good pregnancy. Like I could count the times on my hand that I was like nauseous and throwing up. I was working at a bank at the time. I wasn't a teacher yet. And my boss is an older Puerto Rican woman, which she was like my mom. She's like, déjame cuidarte. I'll take care of you. Sit down. I'll bring you the customers. And all my people in the bank used to take care of me as well. Overall, it was a pretty good pregnancy. I was not in a great relationship. So on that end, I was like very stressed out for the most part. Towards the end of the pregnancy, however, I was getting high blood pressure. So that very last visit that I went to the doctor, my pressure was elevated. And the way that I knew is that I felt I don't know if you felt this, Philly, but like pressure in your eyes. You felt like I felt like my eyes were gonna pop out at one point. It was like really high. And when the doctor saw that, she's like, "Well, ma'am, you're gonna have to rest," because she was asking me like what my job entailed, and I was a personal banker at the time, so I used to have to be up on my feet, even though my boss was letting me sit. It was still like a lot of like the commute there, working with customers all day. It was pretty long hours. So finally the doctor was like, "Yep, that's it, you're done. Next week we're gonna," it was like I think a Wednesday, they're like, "Tuesday we're gonna induce you." And actually that was election day. That was the year that Obama was running against, who was he run against? I forgot. It was the first time Obama was elected. And
Yeah.
so I went into the hospital. Was it the day before? I can't remember. It was the day of election day. Yeah, I went into the hospital. Um, this hospital is phenomenal. It's like a hotel. So, we did a pre-check-in. And then when I went there, I just had to wait for my room to be available. And I had a birthing suite by myself. And then I was there 28 hours. And like you, they gave me that Pitocin. Okay. And those contractions, like I was having like some cramps here and there, but once the Pitocin hit, it was a wrap. I don't even know how to describe it, but I know for a fact that when women have natural contractions, our brain produces something to help us cope with the pain. But because these are artificial, like it's coming from an artificial chemical outside of your body, basically, it was like, at first it was like, I was like, I got this. I got this. I got this. And then after a few hours, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm going to have to, and I wasn't dilating as much. So it got to a point that the contractions were coming really strong, and I was only like 4 centimeters, and I didn't move from there. So at that point, and then they had me on the blood pressure monitor. The nurse turned it away from me, and I know my ex-husband was looking at the monitor, and I would see his eyes like get wide because he would see like the level where it was at. I mean, my mom and him were pretty good at like keeping me like entertained and make cracking jokes. I remember my mom made this I don't know if it was a medicine or whatever, but she made this joke, and I still remember she said that she went to go look at the babies, and one of the babies looked like they put the doctor's bata on him to wrap him. And I was like, I found that like to be the most hysterical thing. So once my water broke, I kept laughing, and it was like
Yeah.
every time I laughed, it was a lot. So yeah, once it started getting to like close to hour like 27, the doctor came around and she was like, "Well, we're trying for you to have a natural birth, but unfortunately you're not dilating, so we're gonna have to put you in to have a C-section," which I didn't want. So I started crying. And then she's like, it's better for you right now. We want to make sure that you're healthy and the baby's healthy. So and I went for my C-section, and like after Obama was elected, Aiden was born on the 5th of November, which is tomorrow. Um, so yeah, it was for the most part, like in the hospital, it was so great because I don't know if you experienced the same thing, but the nurses help you so much. Like I didn't even have to sleep with the baby for the first couple of nights. They would just bring him in to feed. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I gave birth at Kings County, which is a city hospital, and it's like probably the worst hospital, like on the worst hospital list in New York. But like they're like labor and delivery. Like I felt like
Yeah,
a queen. Like I had a suite by myself. Um and yeah, like the nurses were like amazing. Um the day that I gave birth, so like when they, well, there was one nurse that like pissed me off because she was the one that was coming to like increase the pitocin. So like after like the third or fourth time, like she's like, so honey, just let me know when you're gonna want the epidural. So like my original birth plan, like I wanted like no
hmm,
intervention. I didn't want any pain medication. Like I wanted to give birth like naturally, like they used to do in the campo, like like
yeah,
naturally. So she's like, let me know when you're gonna want that epidural. And I'm like, no, like I'm good. Like, and she was like, you're crazy. Like, why would you want to be in pain? And I would just looked at her, and like I didn't say anything. And then when she left, like I started crying, and mommy was like, are you okay? And I was just like, well, first of all, like she shouldn't have said that to me. Like, this is not a part of my birth plan. So I'm already like deviating way far off course. And I don't need to have an epidural if I don't want any. And like if I don't
Mm-hmm.
want it. And like, why would she, like, why is she trying to force
Mm-hmm.
it on me? And my mother's like, don't even pay her no mind. Like, it's okay. Like, she already left. And I'm like, no, but like, she shouldn't do that. Like, she's supposed to be making me feel comfortable. So like, that's the only like bad experience I had. Like, it was that one nurse. Like, all the other nurses were amazing. I even had like, I think the like a student nurse, and she was like, this is gonna be like my first birth.
Oh
So
my
like,
gosh.
she was like so excited.
She's like, this is gonna be
I mean,
amazing.
she wasn't the only, no, like, she wasn't the only one there, thank God, because if she was, I'd have been like, where's your supervisor? But she was just like, she had never seen like a natural birth before, so she was like super excited, and I was like, okay, like, I don't know, like, it kind of made me feel uncomfortable, but like, she was like so excited about it that like, it like kind of took away from like the pain that I was having, like you were saying, like, because I was like, I'm gonna thug this out, and then like, I got this, and then like around 3:45, like I said, I gave birth to him at 6:45, so like around 3:45, I was like, yeah, like, I have a high tolerance of pain, but this is
I
not
know,
normal
it's
for
a
me.
lot.
So get the anesthesiologist in here, stop. Oh, and that's another thing, like, I
Yeah, I
didn't
wanted to
mention,
ask you.
like, I brushed past it. So when they, like, I was like super swollen. Like, you see me, I'm like super skinny now, right now. And even when I had Charles, like, I was all belly. But because of the preeclampsia, like, I was like swollen. Like, I looked so like swollen. So the anesthesiologist came, and they put you like in such an uncomfortable position to even put the epidural in. Like, I was like hunched over, like, it was like
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
It's like not a
But yeah,
natural
so he
position
tried.
of your body goes
Yeah,
in,
I was just like,
and then they're like, "Don't
yeah,
move."
and
You're
I'm just
like,
like, don't move. Yeah, that he's like, don't move, because I could like
"Oh my god."
paralyze you. And I'm like, well, this isn't like a natural position that my body would be in. Um, yeah, it was crazy. But so he tried to do it, like, he did it one time, and he was like, yeah, I didn't hit your spine.
Oh my
And I
god.
was just like, yeah. So then he went a second time, and he was just like, you're really swollen. Like, I can't feel it. And I'm just like, isn't this your job? Like, what do you mean you can't find my
Oh my
spine? It
god.
can't be that hard. So then he's like, I'm gonna try one more time, Miss Vega. I'm like, first of all, I'm 20 years old. Call me Felicia. But he's like, I'm gonna try one more time. But if I can't, insert
Oh
it into
my
your
god.
spine, like, you're gonna have to just go naturally. And I'm like, right? I'm like, bro, I've been in labor for 3 days. I think I could last a couple more hours. Like, literally, that's what I told him. And he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try again. I said, well, you try really hard, sir. Try really hard. Thank God, on the third try,
Oh
he
my
got
god.
it. And he was like, just take a nap. They put the alcohol to make sure that you're actually like numb, like on your legs. And then he was like, all right, take a nap. And so like I took a nap, and then when I woke up, because I had asked my mom, I'm like, how am I gonna know like when I'm ready to like give birth? She's like, honestly, you're gonna feel like you have to take a crap. Like, you're gonna have to, like, you're gonna, like, that's what it's gonna feel like. It's gonna feel like so much pressure down there. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah. So whatever, I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and I was like, Ma, I think I'm gonna poop. She's like, no, you're dilated, like, you're fully dilated. She called the nurse, and they were like, yep, you're ready. And I was like, thank God. Like, I was just so,
oh my
over it.
gosh.
I was like, get this baby out
Yeah,
of
that's
me.
another thing. The anesthesiologist like that I had, he was good. He got it in on the first try, but I did feel when he touched one of the nerves that was not supposed to be touched. And it feels like, I don't know, like, when you lose a tooth that you like have the hole and all right, I'm still cringing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Aiden actually, when he came out, that they did all the checkup on him, he was humongous, by the way. 8.5 pounds, 21 inches long. And then when they wrapped them in all those blankets that they finally gave them to you, you're like, ugh, because you're like, you have no strength. So he felt like he was like 20 pounds. And I was like, what, whose baby is this? Poor baby, he came out all like, I don't know if that happened to Charles. He came out all swollen because I guess he was like trying to come out the wrong way. So his nose was like squished up a little bit when he was born. I mean, it went away eventually. But yeah, like once they did the analysis on him, they found that he had jaundice. I mean, they didn't have to do the light therapy or anything like that, but
Yeah.
you know, it was just he was like a little ruddy brown color. I mean, he eventually went back to the color that he's supposed to be, but yeah, it was a very interesting experience. Overall, the hospital, I gave birth at Hackensack University Medical Center, which is like top 3 in the country for medical care, and they were actually really really excellent. Um, you know, I had as many visitors as long as I was awake, I could have as many visitors as I wanted. Everybody was treated really nicely. I had family come, like my aunts came to see my kid. Aiden's godfather came down. My Aiden's godmother came down. My friends. It was overall a positive experience. What was it like after you took Charles home after you gave birth? I know your mom's a big supporter of you and like gives you a hand as much as she can. But what was it like? And then I don't know if you want to get into kind of the thing with Charles's dad. You don't have to get into details, but like,
Yeah.
was he there for you after you had the baby?
So after I gave birth, me and Charles were both in the hospital for 4 days because they put him in the NICU due to his weight. And now that you mentioned, I think he was a little, like, I think they did put the light on him for like one day. He might have like been like a little bit jaundiced because I feel like I have a picture of him like with like the blue light. So yeah, I think he was a little jaundiced as well. But yeah, we were there. Sunday I gave birth. Monday, Tuesday. I went home on Thursday. And they were like, we're gonna, discharge you, but we're gonna keep him for like another couple of days for observation. And I was just like, okay. So that kind of sucked because I was just like, how am I, like, I'm going home without my baby. Like, this just feels weird. So, oddly enough, I don't know why I was even enrolled in school at the time, but I thought that it was a smart idea to like register for classes being 7 months pregnant. So I actually had a class that night and I was like, well, I feel good enough to go to class.
God.
So yes, instead of going home, I took the train to Brooklyn College and I went to class because I had like a 6 o'clock class. And while I was sitting in class, like the hospital's calling me and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, well, we're ready to discharge him. And I'm like, I was just there. Like, you guys told me you were keeping him for a couple of days. Like, what do you mean? Like, and I wasn't even ready for him because like his baby shower was actually scheduled for the week after he gave birth. After I gave birth, like it was scheduled for the 28th. So like I think I had like, a couple of onesies, but like I didn't have a car seat. I didn't have a stroller, like nothing. So my mom's friend actually like I went home because I was like, okay, I need to go home, but like I don't have a car seat because they're like, you need to bring a car seat, all that stuff. So my mom's like, oh, let me ask my friend, blah blah blah. So her friend was like, yeah, I'll go with you. And like she like her granddaughter was just born also, so she's like, she basically gave me like her granddaughter's blanket. Like Charles came home in a pink blanket. Like that's how unprepared I was. But so yeah, so then I brought him. That was that following Thursday, and like I wanted to breastfeed, but like he wasn't latching on, and like I was getting frustrated, and it was like really hard. Like I would say like the first 6 months. I'm not even gonna say the first couple of weeks. I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, but like I went through postpartum depression, and like so like literally like I did the bare minimum for him. Like the bare minimum. Like I made sure like his diaper was changed. I made sure he was fed. Like I said, I wanted to breastfeed him. If he didn't latch on, like yo no lo iba a forzar. Like si tú no quieres comer, a mí no me importa. Like grab the bottle and I would give it to him. Like I slept a lot. Like when he slept, I slept. And my like when my parents would come home from work, they would like scoop him up and take him and like just let me sleep my life
Mm.
away. And that was like the first 6 months of his life. Um, his father was and wasn't involved. So Charles was like a hookup baby. Like I wasn't even in a relationship with his father. When I found out like I was pregnant, and actually a month, he may hear this. I mean, it's not like I'm lying anyway. I don't even care. So like a month after I had Charles, like he actually was like, I don't want to be with you. I want to be with some other girl. And I was just like, I literally just went through 9 months of like an incubation period of like growing your child. It's only been a month since I've given birth. So I think that also
Contributed.
like contributed to the postpartum depression, because it was just like, I am like the mother of your child. Like I feel like, there should just be like more feelings here. Like this is not how I intended like, my first pregnancy or even having a child like to be. So it was really hard. And then I don't know why, but like Charles came out looking exactly like his dad. He does not look like him
Mm-hmm.
anymore. But like he did. And so like I think that's another reason why like I couldn't bond with him, because I was just so angry at his father. And then I would look at him and he looked exactly like his father, and it was just like, I don't want anything to do with this man, and my child looks exactly like him. So it was
Yeah,
hard.
I can
Yeah,
imagine, man.
it
It it's very, people don't, I feel like some people speak about it, but I feel like people don't talk about this enough. There's so much importance placed on a pregnant woman, which is amazing, right? Like we need the attention. One thing I said to my friend after I gave birth, I was like, you know what I miss the most? I was like, I don't miss my belly because I like being able to see my feet, but I miss the attention. Because like once you give birth, it's like nothing about you, and all the attention is put on the baby, which they need it, but also it doesn't hurt to check in on a mom. I also went through postpartum. Aiden's dad wasn't terrible. He was pretty good actually. I'm not gonna knock him. He was pretty good. He would help me out with the baby. I stayed home with Aiden until I was in the corporate job, so I had a nice maternity leave. So I was there like 2 months and a half, because they counted like that week that I was off before I gave birth as part of the maternity leave. And yeah, it was hard for me to adjust from being like a career woman to being the stay-at-home mom, and then having all these expectations like take care of your baby. Yeah, I was doing that, but then like all the other part, like now you got to cook and clean, and you have to look cute for when your husband gets home and all this other stuff, which was a lot for me. I was like 25 when I had Aiden. Um, I thank God for the people that used to check up on me often, like Aiden's godfather, Aiden's godmother, my best friend. They would constantly be checking and seeing how I was doing mental health wise. But I still did end up going to therapy. That was like the first time I ever went to therapy, and I was put on antidepressants for a little bit. Uh, I took myself off of them. I know that wasn't probably like the best decision, but I didn't like how I was feeling on them. So I just stopped it. As for the breastfeeding, I feel like the hospital dropped the ball a little bit. They should have gotten us like a breastfeeding consultant or somebody that was specialized in that to help, you know, navigate the process. Because Aiden, honestly, he only breastfed for like a month and a half. I want to say like 6 weeks. And it was, I don't know if mommy was saying it was like something about the anesthesia from the epidural, or the Pitocin or something interferes with your milk production, which I don't know how true that is. But she did all those remedios. Did your mom do those for you? Like el chocolate a base de agua and like bacalao soup, which I had never had in my entire life, but apparently that makes you produce milk. Um, but yeah, that was hard for me too. I feel like that was part of the reason why I was like kind of depressed, because like the expectation is like, you have this you're fruitful, you're plentiful, you're abundant, you had this baby, now you're going to feed your baby from your own body. And when that doesn't happen, I feel like that affects you, how you feel your worth as a mother in a way. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt that way because, like, that was another thing. Like, that was my plan. Like, I wanted to exclusively breastfeed him, but I think because I had like so many, like, we had so many complications in the birth, and like, obviously they started bottle feeding him right away. It's. I mean, I've heard, and honestly, that was my experience. Like, it was harder for him to like, because when I would go to the NICU and try, because they had me
Mm-hmm.
pumping, so I would go and like bring them whatever I pumped, or well, I would give them whatever I pumped, and then when I would go to see him, like I would try to like get him to latch on, and he just was like not having it. But I think it was obviously, I mean, the flow of a natural nipple and a bottled nipple is like
Mm-hmm.
totally different, and like they get lazy, like they don't want to have to work
Wait, did
for it,
Charles
and
ever get
especially if
angry
they.
when he was like trying to latch on? Aiden would cry and
Oh
get
yeah.
red, like hacía uno pique tan
No.
grande. I used to be like, oh boy, can
Yeah.
somebody come take this child?
Yeah, like he would get so mad, and it's like I'm trying, and I mean they did have me see a lactation consultant in the hospital, and she was like, she showed me all the positions, like the
Mm-hmm.
football, like all the positions, and I would do it in the office, and she's like, okay, well, I mean he is latching on, and I was like, well, when I do this at home, he doesn't, so clearly he's showing
Mm-hmm.
off because when I'm at home, he doesn't do
Mm-hmm.
this. And she's like, she was like, just keep trying. And I was like, I'm going to keep trying, but I'm telling you that I'm frustrated. And I think, obviously, like all those things like contributed to the fact, like I just, I didn't feel like I was bonding with him enough. And, breastfeeding moms, like they say, like that's your
Mm-hmm.
bonding time, when you're feeding them. And I'm just like, I mean, I don't know. For me, like it wasn't the same because I was just like, giving him a bottle when I wanted to give him my like actual
Mm-hmm.
nipple. And yeah, I definitely felt like not like worthless. I don't know if that's the right word, but I definitely felt
You were
like,
living up to the hype of being a mom.
yeah, like I just felt like I was supposed, like my body's supposed to be doing all these things and it's not. And like I think like I mean I wasn't producing a lot of milk. And I think that was also like frustrating because I'm like sitting there with like the breast pump and like for like media hora and like 2 little ounces come out. And I'm like, so like I think after a week, like I mean they say the best is to give them the colostrum after that. Like I mean obviously it's fine, but like that's where all the
Yeah.
nutrients is. So like I pumped out like all the colostrum, but then after that I was just like I'm not going to force it because I'm getting frustrated. He's getting frustrated. And at the end of the day, as long as he's fed, like I don't care how it
Mm-hmm.
happens because he would like you said, like he would get so frustrated, like le da un pique, and I'm like, but I'm trying, like I'm trying to help you, baby, but it's not
Yeah.
happening. And then I would just be like, all right, boy, toma, and give him the bottle because you know it was hard.
Ay, ay, ay. Yeah. Wait, what was it like when you brought your kid home? Like the rest of your family or people that would go to visit, would they follow your rules that you had for like carrying Charles or preventing him from getting germs and all that stuff?
Honestly, not that many people came to visit. Like when he was like first, I would say like the first maybe 3 months, like nobody, like aside from like my immediate family, like I didn't have any like visitors come over. Like even my friends from like high school didn't come till he was like 6 months old. Just because I don't know if it was my mom that was being overprotective or me. Like I don't remember. Like I mean, like I said, it was 12 years ago, but like I really don't remember anybody coming um like within that time frame. Maybe like my cousin, like who were like prima hermanas or whatever, like maybe she came. But she was also there like throughout my entire labor. So it was just like, you
That's
know.
nice.
And I was there for both of her like her births. So it was just like, I lived with my parents and my brother at the time. So it was just like the four
Mm-hmm.
of us and, and Charles. And I mean, his dad would come. But I didn't really have any like crazy rules, but I also like wasn't even like kind of taking care of myself, if that
Yeah.
makes like I literally like if I showered, it was because my mother was like, all right,
Ya está
like
bueno.
I can smell you, like I can smell you from a mile away, like clearly you haven't showered in a couple of days. I'm gonna grab Charles. I'm gonna need you to go
I'm
shower.
glad you had that support from your
um
mom, though.
yeah, no, honestly, like I don't know what I would do like without my mom and my dad, because my dad honestly was like, when he found out I was pregnant, like he went crazy. Like he was just like, "Me nena, no," and it was just like, "Bro, I'm 20 years old. I'm not like
Yeah.
16." But like after I had Charles, like that was like his pride and joy. Like what, like my mom like was so surprised because like things that he didn't even do with me and my brother growing up, like he would do for Charles. Like él cambiaba los pañales, he would feed him, like bathe him, like everything. Like that was his world.
Philly, I'm gonna interrupt the convo. We could come back and finish recording. Is that okay? And we're back. We had to go for a little commercial break. So we were discussing before we left off, if Philly had any rules that her family had a hard time accepting when she first gave birth. I was a first-time mom, and I read all the baby books. And based on things that I've seen from other women giving birth, I was like, I don't want anybody touching my kid with dirty hands, and you have to wear a little sheet in front of you so you come with your outside clothes and touch my baby. I think around that time there was a story on the news that a baby got herpes because somebody kissed him on the mouth, and I was like, yeah, not my baby. So my family was okay with it because they know, but my husband's family had an issue with it. They thought I was being bougie with my child, and they got very offended. I mean, some of them came with like cologne, like heavy cologne. You know what I'm saying? And for babies, they're not used to those kind of smells. So I felt a certain way. I was like, don't touch my baby. So yeah, I mean, I feel like as a first time mom, I feel like a lot of people let me support, and I appreciate that. But a lot of people don't really consider like checking in, you know. Uh,
I agree with that. I mean, I think we just like we were talking in the previous conversation that like all the focus like goes to the baby. So like I mean, I don't even think like my family even realized that like what I was dealing with was postpartum depression. And what's crazy is like my mom actually went through it with my brother.
mm,
So, like you would think that somebody that like went, but my mom had like a really severe case. Like she
mm,
literally like called the hotline because she was about to like, she didn't know what she was about to do. Thankfully, I never wanted to harm Charles. I just, like I said before, like I could care less. As long as his basic needs were met, like I was good. But yeah, I think like, my parent, like Charles is my mom's like only grandchild. And my dad has two other grandchildren. But like they didn't grow up with him. So like Charles was like their first like real like grandchild experience. So I think they were really trying to like soak that in, and like not that they like kind of put me to the side, but they just felt like they were helping by like just stepping in and doing where they saw that I was lacking. So obviously I appreciate that, because I mean, not that I don't think Charles would have been like dead. You know what I mean? Like I would have been able to like figure it out and maneuver it.
yeah.
But I do think like them, like even like I said, like when they used to get home from work, they would like grab him and like you would give me a moment to like decompress and like figure out like my feelings. So
Yeah.
like I appreciated that, but I do feel like they focused, like they were like their sole focus was him. So yeah.
Yeah, my mom did a lot of drive-by grandmaing. So she would come cook dinner and, hang out with the baby and I, and then leave because she lived in Jersey. It was helpful. I didn't feel as alone. Once I went back to work, though, I remember those first couple of days were rough. I was in the bathroom crying because I missed my baby, even though I felt like it was overwhelming being home with him all the time. So, that was kind of tough at the beginning. But for the most part, Aiden was a pretty chill kid. Like, he was just happy all the time, eating. He grew out of, I don't even think he wore, how they have the newborn clothes? I think he wore it for a week. He went up to like 15 pounds in like a month. By the time I went back to work, he was already 15 pounds. But I was going to ask you, what advice would you give first time moms? Like one or two of the major things that you learned that you wish you would have known as a first time mom.
That it's okay to ask for help. I feel like as first time moms, like we feel like we have to do it all. So yeah, like if you ever feel like overwhelmed, like it's okay to ask for help. Like that doesn't make you less of a mom. It doesn't make you like less worthy of being a mom. I think, your child needs you to be at full capacity. And if that means like taking a couple of hours like for yourself, so that's like the two first. So like ask for help. And even if that means like getting out of the house, and like having your me time. Because when you become a mom, like you get so wrapped up in being a mom that you like lose your identity. So yeah, like I think, that was like a two first.
I love it. I had Sandy as a guest, yesterday in the last episode. And basically that's what we were talking. We were talking about how to balance being a woman, a mom, a career person, a sexual being. Like, we're not just one thing. We don't wear just one hat. And it's okay to have multiple hats. But remembering to be centered and be present and balancing is important. And that in order to be a good mom, you need to make yourself happy first. You can't be a great mom. I mean, you can go through the motions, kind of like what you were talking about. But if you don't feel at your best mental health wise, it's going to affect in the long run. And it can present in your body in different ways, like making you sick, more than anything. The piece of advice that I would give first time moms is definitely, I agree with yours, to ask for help. And, don't feel guilty about needing a break. Like, don't feel guilty about that. It's okay to take a break. Because there's no way that you're going to, keep running on empty and be giving your best, like you're 100% to somebody. And our last question for this session is, if you could do anything differently, what would that be? From your birth story or postpartum or anything like that?
I think I didn't advocate for myself enough, like during my birth. I just felt like whatever they told me, like they needed to do, like I was just signing papers and like, okay, do what you need to do. So yeah, like I feel like, I mean, I always say like Charles is 12, I'm never starting over, but like you just never know. So I think like if a man presents himself and I happen to end up pregnant and be in that situation again, I definitely, would advocate for myself more. Like, I follow a bunch of like doulas and they're just like, they don't have to come and check how dilated you are every 5 seconds the way they do.
Yes.
And I definitely felt like super violated, like them 3 days that I was there. And it was just like, okay, like, ¿cuántas veces tú vas a chequear? Like, it didn't change in an hour. And things like that. Like, I just feel like I want to go in with like a written birth plan. Because like in my mind, I knew kind of what I wanted. But obviously, like when you're in the motions, like, you forget. So like I want to have like a written birth plan and like make sure that my OB or midwife or whatever I choose, like honors that birth plan. Postpartum, I think I didn't like, even though like I was like, I was going through the motions because of postpartum. I think I would take my own advice and like be like, I need help. Like, take him for a couple of hours. I'm gonna go just have a me day, or a couple of hours. So yeah, because I feel like that first, like, I think I got 6 weeks off postpartum. I can't remember, but it wasn't like much because I was working like in a small office at the time. So whatever the disability was at that time, that's all I took, and I went right back to work. And I was like all about him that entire time. So definitely like taking, not losing myself in that newborn stage.
I definitely agree with that sentiment. I actually, what's funny, Felicia? I worked at a early Head Start program, and all the women there were trained as doulas. But for some reason, I felt like that was something that was unattainable to me because it wasn't covered by insurance, and it seemed very expensive. Not that the services that they provide aren't worthy, but this time around, I would definitely get myself a doula that I was comfortable with and that understood my birth plan. Definitely, I don't know if I want to have kids again, but if I were to do it again, because Aiden's about to be 13 tomorrow, if I were to do it again, I would definitely get a doula or a midwife, kind of something more similar to how the birthing experience was before, because I do feel that hospital births, even though we had good experiences for the most part, I feel like hospital births they make it very clinical and very sterile when it's something that's supposed to be beautiful. And yes, there are risks, but I feel like having so much medical intervention when your child is being born into the world has side effects later on in life. So this is the end. I want to thank you so much for your candidness, Felicia, and for being so open and amazing. Comadres, follow me at Comadreando Pod, and you can follow Felicia on IG at
it's my first name, so PHYLICIA__BEGA.
Okay. And if you have any questions at all, you know that you can always send me a Comadre-Gram. You can send it to me via DM on the podcast IG or at Comadreando@escthenetwork.com. Thank you for spending time with your comadres. Feli, thank you, comadre, for spending time with us and sharing your beautiful story.
You're so welcome. This was so great. I'm so happy I did it.
We have to hang out soon.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next episode of Comadreando. Bye.